Hello, everybody, and good morning. It's a great morning. I'm going to be reading you a little bit about Buddha in the waiting room. But I have to tell you that Facebook is blocking me from making live posts, and it's all about MJM and WE33D, WE33D SDAY. So the robots are getting deeper and taking away a lot of freedom of speech. I would presume their rules are their rules, but I've had 280 episodes plus on the air, and now that's that. I keep a neutral line here on my shows, and so I won't say anything good or bad about what's just happened. It's just be careful and don't give up. So this morning I'm going to read you a little bit about Buddha in the waiting room, and we're on Instagram and we're on YouTube. So find me, play with me, listen to me, and yeah, it's a beautiful morning to say hello to Buddha in the waiting room. Simple truths about health, illness, and healing. Health cannot be limited to a physician's prescription or the Gospels of health books. It is not a commodity available free with branded health foods. Health is not achieved by curing the bodily disease. Health is a state of mind. So I used to have a company called State of Mind Productions, and I know nothing. I have a new friend. Her name is Mariana Madonna. So let's give a for Mariana Madonna. She's from the Angels, and she came in via Venezuela and Italy to my world, and she brought the healing arts back to my house. Papaya seeds for parasites, B12 for longevity, and to make everything else work. And she's just a blessing. So find your blessings how you do. But this morning I'll read you a little bit about Buddha in the dressing room, in the waiting room. So simple truths about healing and health. To my patient teachers whose lives have been an inspiration to me and have provided me with a compass to direct me home to a life of health. Well, it's beautiful. That's why I do live food, everybody, as much as I can. I'm guilty of having that crunch, but I totally, where's my phone? I totally made some. Let me get my phone here for you, and I'll stay with you here, everybody. I totally made these jackers, and they're crackers made from the pulp that came out of my juice. And so my friend Mariana Madonna says, "Oh no, use the blender. We need the pulp. We need everything." But I turned everything into a beautiful cracker. So you get the crunch, you get the and dehydration. So use your tools. Don't forget and get lazy, and go to Costco and get everything packaged. Get some live food when you go to Costco. I know the macadamia nuts are good. I got them. So, a physician's training is not complete until it integrates the wisdom of his or her patients. I feel like an ancient mariner. I have taken a long, stormy 40-year journey in stretch of the medical holy grail, what makes people sick and what makes people well. This journey has taken me through traditional medical training and ob- obstetrics and gynecologic practice. That's Gynecology, gynecology practice in Cancer Society. Fellowship, a doctorate in philosophy, counseling the dying, and the holistic health movement, hypnosis, acupuncture, meditation, and shamanism. Throughout the albatross around my neck has been a contained wisdom I have heard from my patients, mentors, and my own aloneness. It is now time to share that wisdom. I have learned the health cannot be contained in a doctor's office. It cannot be purchased over a drug counter or a health food store. You only are the sole purveyor of your own health. Health is a self-created state of being. Health is not the absence of disease. Health has nothing to do with illness. Although this book traces the thread of my journey through the healing of the arts, Buddha in the Waiting Room is written for you and the honor of those who taught me the truth about health, and paradoxically, most of my teachers were ill. So even the shamans and the sadhus got sick. However, despite their apparent physical state, these individuals were vibrant, wise, beyond their years, and very much alive. Even those diagnosed with terminal illness, they defined the meaning of health. They knew something that I had to learn. Despite the physical state, they taught me the art of healing, healthy living. Each of them was a Buddha to me or a source of pure wisdom. Other Buddhas in the book are those mentors and events that shape my awareness concerning health, illness, and human potential. Like the Zen saying, you'll never know when you meet Buddha in the street, I too, in time, began to wait for my patients, or in fact anyone to grace my life with their wisdom. Mariana Madonna. I was aware that at times I was healing them, and often in return they healed me by offering me insights for my own life and health. The ill and dying are the often privy to the life's wisdom. Illness tends to be catalyzed by the understanding of the important in life. Many of these patients knew and shared secret things. When I was with them, it was as if in the presence of the holy person. I was in the presence of the holy person. Remember, slow down, and then speed up. That's what Danny Deerdorf used to say. So for whatever reason, I am just a recorder of those truths. I could not have told these stories and their wisdom sooner. I had to live them first within myself. I know my patients' stories will rekindle within you and the wisdom that already exists in every healthy cell of your being. I hope that their lives inspire you to live passionately in health. Please join me as I retrace the last 40 years of my life and retell the lessons I have learned from my patients, my mentors, and my life. So that's the beginning of Buddha in the Waiting Room. It says here, Blessings Mind on Chapter 1, Beginner's Mind. The shattering of old beliefs in the seed of new beginnings. In 1971, my wife, my 3 children, and I lived in a 6,000 square foot California ranch home, replete with sauna, hot tub, pool, and drop-dead view of the Pacific Ocean. Contented, my future was known to me. That until one spring day of that year, a brochure advertising acupuncture symposium landed on my desk. It was not an acupuncture that caught me by eye, but the big red letters, Stanford University. There were 3 kids to educate. I was compelled to compare the universities and evaluate it for my children's future. Mildly curious about acupuncture and more curious about Stanford, I signed up. The Stanford Symposium was held in an impersonal, windowless science amphitheater, a long black marble slab with two sinks and gas jets reserved for as the Diaz. The room reeked of sulfur, and the other 299 participants appeared mesmerized, entrapped, enthralled, as the speaker after speaker extolled the virtues and the advantage of acupuncture over the traditional allopathic Western medical system. The morning session offered a film from mainland China that I sat transfixed on the camera, focused on the surgeon drilling burr holes with a household drill through the cranium of an obviously awake yet bored patient. The sole anesthesia for this barbaric brain surgery, as a single sliver needle was protruded from the webbed space between his thumb and his index finger of the patient's left hand. In spite of my extensive cancer training and strong stomach, I was frankly grossed out. Drilling a hole in the patient's head with a single needle in hand for anesthesia. Get off it. Either I was watching hypnosis or the patient had made an overly zealous pledge of obedience to Chairman Mao. The film was followed by an acupuncture demonstration by Felix Mann and a physician from England. Mann properly British treated two volunteers. Properly British treated two volunteers from the audience who had, in my opinion, questionable musculoskeletal ailments. Within seconds of being acupunctured, both patients congratulated Dr. Mann for healing them, and Mann's performance could only be rivaled by the world-renowned American faith healer from the 1930s, Catherine Kuhlman. I dismissed him. I felt taken. Let's face it, how could silver needles placed through layers of the skin do anything that hurts like hell with my finely tuned Western logic? I was able to explain away each lecture and find obvious loopholes in each presentation. Acupuncture was either fake or a miracle. I was not a believer in miracles. At the time, only things that seemed notable that day was the lunch. Of the 300 participants, 3 were but a handful of physicians, and all ended up at the same table. They found the identical loopholes that I had. They too were dismissed and annoyed that the lack of scientific data was presented. Our joint conclusion was the symposium was a joke. We shared the liners, take 2 needles and call me in the morning, or the doctor's point of surgery. However, the most discussed, the questionable table was, how can we get on an early flight home? I guess that's what you do when you go to a medical conference. You hook up with people that are angelically at your table. Despite the complaining of all the returned afternoon session, to hear the presentation by Dr. William Tiller, professor of material science at Stanford University, Tiller was not only scientifically knowledgeable about but downright brilliant. He dazzled me with his knowledge and ability to translate subatomic physics into understandable terms. Dr. Tiller stated that the acupuncture points were areas of the body of decreased electrical resistance. He demonstrated that these points could easily be located in a simple garden variety electronic device called the ohm meter. It measures the electrical resistance of a conductor. In this case, the skin was a unit of measure called ohm, and the device, like the drill, could be purchased at the nearest hardware store. The symposium ended, to my further incredulity, and a brief panel discussion on faith healing, and I thought faith healing, my God, this is really ridiculous. I turned to the man next to me, and he whispered, "Does Tiller have a tenure?" He does. Wow, Stanford must be well endowed. Questioning my personal myths. During my return flight, I reflected on acupuncture, totally absurd, but compared to faith healing, it was at least visible. I caught myself short, and could my whole life really be based on the unfolding selections of the last repugnant choices from a series of ludicrous options? From there, I spun into further existence questions. Is my life personal myth? Is reality no more than conscious of personal myths? Maybe the earth was flat until enough people thought that it was round, and the science, medicine, and the modern technology no more consensual myths. This wasn't the first time I pondered the nature and existence of my mind kept spinning, and in there a unique me buried within mythic debris from all these shoulds, shouldn'ts, coulds, and couldn'ts, right and wrongs cast upon by others, myself. On the flight from San Francisco to San Diego, the first string in my personal mythic structure of reality began to unravel. The white coat and had defined my membership in the priesthood of traditional Western medicine began to lose some of its starch. In fact, it began to wrinkle. I wasn't able to silence the voice within. Questioning only became more precedent in the fall of '72 when I received a phone call from the March of Dimes, and I was asked, along with Dr. Louis Gluck, to speak on the American Academy of Obstetrics and Gynecology. In New York City, Dr. Gluck was a pioneer of evaluating lung maturation and the unborn. Although my contribution to Gluck's work had been minimal, I was an obstetrician who had performed the work for his study. Being born and bred in New York, I suffer from a genetic error, the East Coast gene geographical distortion. So perceiving England to be located just on the other side of the Hudson River, someplace near Staten Island, I planned with my then wife Joyce to stop in London on my way to New York City because acupuncture continued to tweak my interest. I called Felix Mann, a British acupuncturist who's spoken at Stanford, and as if I could study with him in London. He generously consented, invited me to take part in an acupuncture internship with 5 other physicians, and they had expressed an interest in exploring it. A month later, I was sitting nervously in the study of Dr. Mann's brownstone apartment, breathing in a unique smell of an old, fresh mildew, rolled up Chinese charts, and the models of ears, noses, and tongues were stashed on every corner. Needles of all lengths, casually laden on his desk. The wall-to-wall bookcases were lined with old Chinese French manuscripts, and the French, due to their colonization of Indochina, were the first in the Western world to realize the therapeutic value of acupuncture. Basically, the room was decorated in early English clutter, randomly placed amid the clutter was Chinese mannequins. The soft plastic life dolls tattooed were very vertical lines called meridians. These Chinese feel that the transmitted through the body along the meridians interspersed these lines with 365 dots, the acupuncture points, each of which had significance to a part of the human anatomy and which codified the Chinese character. I thought 12 meridians in 12 months and 365 points and 365 days in the year. I'm getting it. 12 meridians, 365 days in the year. How primitively trite. Dr. Mann informed us that the meridians were related to the specific origins of the body and were divided into female and male aspects. In 72, the information seemed equally trite to me. To recall medically enshrined the self-importance without embarrassment, Dr. Mann was polite, plump, and pompous, and the impeccable assurance that of a knower, he intoned this various, and very few knew that how to impart to you. I have to impart to you. Pay attention. The wisdom of the Orients is not a conflict. The technology of the West, it is integrative, and acupuncture does not replace Western medicine. It is adjunct to it. As we trained in England with the most prestigious medical schools, and prior to attempting acupuncture, had become fluent in both the Meridian Cantonese dialects. Dr. Mann, who we never called Felix, commanded respect from me and the other 5 physicians that work in the study program. Every morning, our internship was arrived at 9. Dr. Mann had tea, took notes on the lecture, and watched him perform acupuncture. As if the patient did not show up, we students were acupunctured. Needless to say, no one would volunteer. I remember the searching eyes and would offer anyone in the room ill today. You could hear a pin drop. No pun intended. Oh, less traumatic days were mesmerized. Dr. Mann, when people of all of the ailments presented themselves, would intentionally listen to their chief complaint and methodically quiz them about their lives. He probed their social, emotional, and physical history. Is it worse at night? What effect does weather play in pain? Who was with you when your accident occurred? What was happening in your life just before your illness? Were there stresses in your life at one time? What emotions and situations do you think triggered your illness and made your symptoms worse? In brief, what events preceded and surrounded your illness? I was surprised by the interest in the patient's anecdotes, and even more surprised that the decisions in regarding what specific acupuncture point needed stimulation depended more on the social history that surrounded the patient's illness than the site of complaint. The obvious was not approached when interviewing a new patient. Due to technological advances, exorbitant costs and assumptions to the body was too complex for any person to completely understand. Time restraints and contributed to the loss of holistic outlook, and the result of both physician and patient have been diminished, and the art of healing person has been lost to the science of healing the pathology. Dr. Mann clearly wasn't operating under these assumptions. He gained further insight into the patient's medical complaint by palpating the radial artery at the wrist and the Chinese art of pulse diagnosis. He used the fingertips with the same grace and as a concert cellist uses to compress the cello string among the fingerboard. Based on patient's social history, the pulse diagnosis, Dr. Mann explained, the healer knows exactly which meridian and acupuncture points to be stimulated. He would then gently place a needle or needles into the appropriate points of the body. Literally, in moments, without fail, the patient often appeared miraculously cured. Was it possible? I wondered that acupuncture could work in so rapidly, and did Mann hire his aunts and uncles and cousins to feign illness? Each night I lay in bed with my eyes open, gazing at the ceiling, dialoguing myself and his 80-year-old mother spiking my tea. My reality was collapsing, albeit chaotically, was Dr. Mann making an apparently unbelievable believable. If it was apparent to be unbelievable to become believable, isn't that the definition of a miracle? If acupuncture is a miracle, then a miracle is possible, but that's impossible without doubt. I was the most confused, exhausted, and skeptical of 6 physicians for weeks, questioning what would exhaust me and challenging all the things that I knew, to question the alternative forms of healing and to honor the scientific method, but questioning the medicine itself. By the time Dr. Mann's study program ended, our last night in London, Joyce complained of soreness in her throat. While I had been confined to a musty English library, Joyce had been enjoying London entirely too much. She deserved to suffer. I suggested acupuncture. Joyce, was an awesome human being, cheerfully said, "Why not?" She said there was no acupuncture needles in sight. Unbeknownst to her, I removed a pin from my arrow shirt and grabbed her hand and placed the needle between her thumb and her index finger, and at the same point used a Stanford acupuncture movie that for the brain surgery and deftly pierced the skin. Within moments, Joyce's throat was miraculously better. Was she cured by acupuncture, or did her fear stimulate her adrenal glands to release cortisone, or did Joyce clear her throat when she screamed, "Get the goddamn dirty thing out of my hand"? In any case, she was cured, but I still could not accept acupuncture as a viable therapy. Let's put a piece of paper there and continue this mañana. So miracles happen. We haven't even talked about food yet. So acupuncture is cool, and you are cool. Just follow your bliss and get ready for the future. We're here. Morning readings by Jeffrey Fresh.